You're watching St. Lucia's only 100% digital television station, Hot 7 TV.
On this TV program by the hosts, guests, and callers are solely their opinions and responsibility. They do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Hot 7 TV or its affiliates.
Keeping it real, but keeping it real every day.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real. Tonight's episode, check the play. Make sure that things are lined up there. I thought you said this was lined up. You're sabotaging me already early tonight. I'm hearing myself talking in there. Good night, folks, and good night, and welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real, wherever you are in St. Lucia, north, south, east, west. Wherever you are in the region, in the diaspora, and around the world, good night to you, and thank you for joining me once again for another show right here on Hot 7 TV. And of course, the usual shout-outs. I try to make it as brief as possible, but I constantly keep getting in trouble with people who say that I don't shout out their neighborhood. So if you're in the North Cape Estate, if you're in Vieux Fort, all the way down in the south, if you're in Soufrière, in the west, and Dennery, Mico, wherever. In the east, everywhere around, in between, on top, underneath. Good night to you. Plateau, Babono, Debara, Bonte, wherever. New Village, Richford, new development in Soufrière, Londonderry, Labriside, Pierrot, Grace, Banan, PI, Latoc Road, Latoc, Masque, Ancillary. All the folks out there in Ancillary. Market Street, good night to you. Ancillary is keeping it real town. And all of you in the diaspora, in Florida, in the US, in New York City, all over in the Washington, D.C. area, Connecticut, Boston, Massachusetts, wherever you are, Houston, Texas, Dallas, Texas. Hey, my friend is in South Korea tonight. Good night to you. Good night to you on the west coast of the US of A, in London, UK, in Europe, wherever you are, Africa, Australia, Southeast Asia. Good night to you. And if you're on Mars, special good night to you. Well, folks, the past few days have not been without their excitement. And of course, the House of Parliament, any sitting there, is always attracting attention on social media, on TV, and the conversations all around St. Lucia. And yesterday's sitting of the House for the extension of the state of emergency by 90 days was no exception. But we're going to get to that in a while. We're going to get to that in a while. You ready for me inside there? All heads are down. They're working tonight. I got them, folks. I have them. Are you ready? Okay, everybody's ready on the start line, folks. So, there has been this constant complaint about the way certain people have chosen to speak, to express themselves. And it's not just, regular talk about this and talk about that, but the insinuations, the inciting of violence, of disrespect, of malmess, and all of it, folks, all of it is associated with politics. The underlying tone in all of it is politics. And St. Lucians, by and large, they're gentle people, if you want to use that characterization of our people. Cool out, man. Take it easy, man. Take it easy. We've grown up in a Christian society. We've grown up in a society where the teachers at school and everywhere else tell you about how to disagree respectfully. I mean, every time, once in a while, you get a little, enragé, a little something pass. But as we are nearing these upcoming elections in St. Lucia, a certain group of people, I'll let you figure it out for yourself. You're enragé. And it is shocking at times to see certain people who you may have looked up to, certain people whom you expected a particular kind of, if I can use that word, reverence or respect from. When you see some of what they post on social media, especially when you see they believe that they're in company or they're in these groups, they feel that their malmess is the rule of the day, and the desperation you see it oozing out in everything that they write. Their wage political. Not too long ago, a few weeks ago, St. Lucians were shocked. The good thinking St. Lucians were shocked by the statements of an individual associated with the opposition, deep inside the bosom of the opposition, who said, St. Lucians, you think you could find that? That statement? St. Lucians, let Parliament be your Capitol Hill. And that was right on the heels of what had happened in Washington, D.C. The violence, the attempted coup. That's what I'll call it, an attempted coup in Washington, D.C. And a number of people died there. There was bloodshed. There was violence. And in the wake of that, for the inauguration of Joe Biden as President of the United States, descending upon Washington, D.C. never before. 25,000 National Guardsmen and law enforcement personnel because of threats that had come out of all of what went on there. And around the U.S., government buildings and offices and everywhere, heightened state of security, the fear of homegrown terrorism in the U.S. And someone associated with the St. Lucia Labour Party echoed similar sentiments and likened our parliament in downtown Castries Day, right where the Senate sat today, and the other parliamentarians, ministers of government, and the opposition sat yesterday. And this individual had made numerous posts on social media. Among one of them was for throwing of tear gas and grenades into the House of Assembly or House of Parliament. But not to outdo herself, this very same individual, you see, it's the rhetoric. And you have to ask yourself, folks, what is the intention of this rhetoric, and why has it been so difficult for the St. Lucia Labour Party to distance itself from an individual who is deep down in bed with them? No pun intended. Who MCs, who hosts a lot of their events. And as a matter of fact, on that shameful 4th of October last year, is the one who was at the mic on the truck and on the Castries market steps. I'm sure you all know who I'm talking about. I'm sure you all know. And the thing is, there is no place in St. Lucia for that type of behavior, for that attitude, for that incitement. We've seen that before in the late 70s, early 80s. And St. Lucia has no desire to see those days again. Those who were there and those who know of the violence. And I don't need to beat a dead horse, but those of you who know who was associated with that and who was connected with it, you know. But we have in St. Lucia a number of denominations. We're a Christian society, but there are a number of denominations. Catholics, Roman Catholics, we have the Methodists, we have the we have the Seventh-day Adventists. Which one is that? You have the social media one? Great. And we have Anglicans here. And the Anglican Church goes back, way back in St. Lucia. Many of you remember Pastor Evelyn, who was a fixture at the Anglican Church, right there on Trinity Church Road, sandwiched between the 2 or 3 Anglican schools, infant school, top school, primary school, and the annex, which has fallen on some not too good times lately. And in there is the, if you want to call it, the pastor's house or the presbytery. So now, Pastor Eveling is not here anymore, and we have a priest who has taken over the duties at the Anglican Church. And lo and behold, folks, it's not just any ordinary priest. It's a female priest, a woman. And of course, it must be quite shocking, because for St. Lucians, and you see what I was telling you about the speech and the hate and the comments that are being made, it caught the attention of the priest. Is she a deacon? Somebody will correct me. Send me a message. And as we have been calling out for, she's a reverend. And as we have been calling out, a female deacon is a deaconess, but the reverend. As we have been calling out in St. Lucia so much, even recently, for our churches, for our reverends, to become more active in speaking out against so many of the ills. Because in days gone by, we had some firebrand priests and reverends in St. Lucia. Not to mention, or not to forget, Father Anthony, not to forget Father John. And many have lamented the fact that so many of our men and women of the cloth have become silent, or maybe conveniently silent at certain times. So without much more ado, I will let you hear what the Anglican priest had to say a few days ago. Roll that.
This is a message for both the church, you and me, and the unchurched, those who have not yet come to know the love of God. It is also message that I am sounding to this nation of St. Lucia. I was appalled as I was viewing an update from the Command Disease Center, an update on the COVID-19 situation in our nation. And as I view the comments posted by the public, it was sickening, to say the least. The numerous ad hominem attacks on the Prime Minister of this country, not wanting to hear from the Prime Minister because of an agenda that they may have to oust the present administration. The vile language posted on social media simply because you will prefer not to hear from the Prime Minister of this country, when the Prime Minister of this country is instituting measures to save your life and my life. The depth of disrespect, whether or not you like the Prime Minister as an individual, respect the office of Prime Minister. If God wants him to be removed, it will happen. But let us stay focused. You don't have to tear down a man because you don't like him. I don't like the priest, so I ain't listening to she. Remember, there's coming a day of accountability to Almighty God. And this narrow partisan political cleavage that causes us to close our ears to efforts and wisdom of saving the country from the ravages of the current pandemic must stop. Otherwise, this nation will certainly self-destruct. Let me say here, I am not putting any political agenda. I can't even vote. I don't even qualify to vote. And I have said to the church, my color is white, representing the purity of Jesus Christ and reminding me that I am under obligation to preach the word of God. The vitriol and vulgar comments posted on social media during the updates are sickening at best for a country looking to celebrate 42 years of self-governance.
You hear anything wrong with that, folks? Good night to Kabish and good night to Bagatelle. You hear anything untoward about what was said there by the Reverend, the Anglican Church lady? You hear anything wrong there? Is it not something that should be spoken about? Doesn't matter where you're from. Déclassé is déclassé. Malmès is malmès. Zanimo is zanimo. I didn't hear anything wrong there. This is what usually comes from the pulpit. Because the Word of God, the Bible, speaks against those things. And it is not only the Anglican Church or other individuals from other denominations who have spoken out and against this sort of behavior. We have seen certain persons who have been all about that others want to laud and call them philanthropists, have chosen the most vile things to say about the Prime Minister and gone online and want to be some sort of example to young children and claiming to give them things and donate this and donate that. And the nastiest things to say, to do what? Shock people into some reality that you're here, that you're there, that take notice of you. Our own people, some of them nobody knew. And the only way they can break in to the consciousness of people in St. Lucia is to be vile. You know what they call people like that? Shock jocks. That's what they are, shock jocks. And that they have to say every nasty thing. And you see, they use social media because anybody and everybody is on there. You don't need to pay nothing much other than your internet connection, or some of them even thieving Wi-Fi. Or they get somebody's password. But I want you to see, folks, what another woman had to post about this priest. And I'm calling again on the St. Lucia Labour Party to do the right thing. Philip J. Pierre, take a stand against that filth from within your ranks. Take a stand against it. Have the gumption, man. Have the gumption. Let's see that post. Look at that. Just scroll down a little bit. It's there for the world to see. You see that little globe, that little world to the right? Without shame, sans honte, means visible to the world. Anybody. You don't have to be a friend. You don't have to be any special group. Anyone. Well, my sister, you can read it for yourselves, folks. You ain't no disrespect yet. So this individual is saying that the vile things that people have said, posted about the Prime Minister, is nothing yet. Suggesting that there's more to come. You ain't seen nothing yet. It suggests that there's more to come. You are out of line. You can return to your country when your stint is done. Compton would have sent you to save souls. Let those who feel it speak. You're rude to tell us what to feel or how. Know your damned role. What's going on here? What's going on here? Woman disrespecting us in our country for a white man. The xenophobia and the racist comments in there. Racist comments. I have people know here that they are white St. Lucians. Our flag alone. I'll have to verify that. Got a message there that someone associated with them again on the news today attacked the priest. But it tells you the desperation that is out there. It tells you the disrespect and the vile manner in which they want to disagree with people. The same individual, the one from Capitol Hill. Pattern of behavior, folks. Put it up. Dear St. Lucia, House of Parliament is your Capitol Hill. And somebody sent me a message. You have the other ones? Yes. Pattern of behavior. The opposition needs some tear gas and grenades for the next and every sitting of Parliament. Place the grenades under Guy, Joseph, and Chasney. That's somebody speaking anything positive. You can take them down. That's somebody speaking anything positive to our people or a reflection of what we want our politics to be here. Is that person somehow a reflection of the St. Lucia Labour Party that they have not come out to condemn it in any and every way possible? Especially when that individual is deep inside with the St. Lucia Labour Party. A true supporter of the SLP. And no Mickey Mouse thing going on there. a spokesperson for the SLP, well-known mouthpiece for the SLP, speaker for the SLP. Is that type of speech, that type of statement, and we smell in 1979 all over again. And where was it coming from? And who were the people behind it? Don't play y'all want to malmene people, Sevel. The evidence is there. That's why I tell you folks again and again. They don't want you to talk about the past. That's the past, man. That's the past. What example is this? And especially from people who have children, who have daughters, speaking in such a manner about another woman. But you know, the truth shall set you free. And I'm calling again on the St. Lucia Labour Party to distance themselves from that individual. Distance themselves. This is not what St. Lucia is about, and this is not what we want to emulate in St. Lucia at all. And who vex lose. We will not descend along that path again. We will not descend upon that path, down that path again. Just keeping it real with you. So let's move on now, folks. House of Parliament yesterday. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Philip J. Pierre. You know, the House of Parliament, our House of Assembly as we call it, is meant to discuss the issues. You put in valid arguments to and against, whatever. Whether it's a bill, whether it's a motion, whatever it is. But things have become so ridiculous. The statements that have been made by the opposition have become so predictably nonsensical, lacking in any credibility, lacking in any depth. And now the sittings of the House have become a grandstand, delay tactics for prime time, wasting of time with irrelevant arguments. To do what? So I want to go to Philip J. Pierre, the first clip, yesterday at Parliament sitting. Roll the first one.
So, Mr. Speaker, where are we? We're in a position of lack of trust, where the people are asking why a state of emergency for 90 days. You know why, Mr. Speaker? Because they do not trust the government. They do not believe that the government will stick to its word, and the state of emergency will be only for COVID. They do not trust the government, Mr. Speaker. They do not trust the government.
The state of emergency will not be only for COVID. Which people are saying that? Wasn't this the same arguments that Philip J. Pierre and his the five other unhappy horsemen made last year? Other intentions, suggesting ulterior motives, suggesting a violation of people's rights. That's what he's suggesting. It was the same argument last year. Is there any record? I don't know, is Philip J. Pierre a gade? Because all of last year he was proven not to have any qualifications as a gade. Because he's saying, and he's suggesting now, that the government has, that people believe, and if he's repeating it, he must believe it too, that the government has some ulterior motives with the state of emergency. St. Lucia doesn't have a record of that. This government does not have a record of that. Philip J. Pierre also was playing Gade again when he called elections for the 11th of what, November? No elections. He called the same thing last year with the state of emergency, that the government, we're watching you, the government wants to infringe on people's rights and all of this thing, and the prime minister has too much power and blah, 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 blah. Nothing came to pass. Nothing. So you wonder which people, because I haven't heard anybody really say that they're concerned about the state of emergency and violation of people's rights. I think everybody and their dog in St. Lucia is aware of the reasons for the state of emergency and this time. But what is Philip J. Pierre trying to fuel? What is he trying to juke? What is he trying to buy vent? So let's go to the next clip. Roll it.
And other places we play politics. Other places we get involved in the lowest and the most debased attacks on people.
Hold on a second there. Hold on a second there. Pause that there. Come back to me. Was Philip J. Pierre there somehow? Go back to the beginning of that clip again. Was he somehow referring to that statement made or alluding to that statement made against the Anglican priest? Roll that clip again.
And other places we play politics. Other places we get involved in the lowest and the most debased attacks on people. Are we and our surrogates? Why the government does that? The people are suffering. And the people will continue to suffer. And the people will continue not to trust the government because the government has proved that it can't be trusted, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Mr.
You see, these are the statements that people make unsubstantiated. And the government has proved that it can't be trusted. How? By putting in the protocols to save people's lives? By spending millions of dollars to get St. Lucia ready to deal with the coronavirus? By instituting or implementing the state of emergency last year and extending it to protect the lives of St. Lucians? By not violating people's rights? Because what is Philip J. Pierre referring to that has caused the people of St. Lucia not to trust the government? He doesn't give any example. Is it because of the COVID-19 Prevention and Control Act? But Dr. Ernest Hillel himself last year at the beginning of that shameful march on October the 4th in the blazing sun whilst he was wearing no mask said that the government could have extended the state of emergency for another 7 days, another week. Or is it only when Ernest Hillel and the SLP decide that something should be done that it's okay? That all the time that the government had it in place, it was no good. But, you know, jukpa isi, jukpa la, the constantly shifting goalpost. So now they had a march. They had stymied the COVID-19 Prevention Act in the Senate. There was no state of emergency that expired. There was no act. Senators didn't show up. So they get the march, which Philip J. Pierre since July last year said, we're going to have, by golly, whatever it takes, we're going to have a march in the beginning of October. You remember that, of course. You have that clip of Ernest Hillel when he said that the government can, the interview on the march. You don't have it? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Too much digging. And the priest, the Anglican priest earlier, spoke about ad hominem attacks on the Prime Minister and people. You know what an ad hominem is? When you attack someone personally rather than dealing with the issue that they're discussing. So they call you all kind of names to get away from dealing with the real facts. Ad hominem attacks. So let's go. But you see, Phillips JPA is talking about people don't trust the government. Put up St. Lucia #1, the photo, because I want people to see it again. And all the talk about opening up the tourism industry and the state of emergency and the violation of people's rights. Nothing there about that. Look at that flat line from March last year all the way to October the 12th. Look at that, folks. Now you see the yellow or the orange? That is active cases. Active cases. There we go. Active cases. Look at how flat that line is and how long had we gone without a case. Look at it, folks. Did anybody lose confidence or trust in the government? All the predictions of doom and gloom by the St. Lucia Labour Party about the state of emergency, about the government, the Prime Minister having too much power and the potential existing to violate people's rights. Look at that line there, folks. Flat. Rien. And you see that little black bubble there indicating the 7th of October 2020. That is where a few days after we begin to see the results of the march. A few days after, within the 14-day incubation period. And we heard a lot of talk in the House yesterday about probability. There it is there. All what happened before, the opening of the borders, the state of emergency, tout bagay. Rien. Nothing, I tell you, nothing. Isn't that crazy? Nothing at all.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's crazy. Put that back up. I ain't tell you put it down yet. Put it back. Let that sink in for people. Give me that graphic back up there. Flat line, folks. Let it. I want it to burn into your eyes tonight. I want you to digest it. Look at it. State of emergency. How many months? And you tell me Philip J. Pierre is now going to question the efficiency or the efficacy or the relevance or the need for a state of emergency now? If you want any graphic expression of the numbers and what they tell you, look at it right there. Look at it right there. So you can't tell me that those numbers don't tell you something. Can't tell me that. That cannot be accurate, folks. Cannot be accurate. Look at the numbers. A few days after, within 10, 12 days, only a fool will not be able to see what's there to see. This is basic, folks. Basic. Look at to the right of that black bubble there. I'm beating that horse. Look at it. That's the 7th right there to the right of it. You see anything happening there? So the 4th is 2 dates before that. And look at it. Within the period by the 12th, the 16th, 12 days. Exactly as the statistics from around the world have proven. That's why we have a 14-day quarantine period. I don't care what anybody says. It happened when the state of emergency was not in effect. The conditions for a super spreader. Mamele! I'm saying it. The conditions existed perfectly for a super spreader event. And that's what happened on that day. I don't have to be any brain box, any scientist. All I have to do is just calculate basic mathematics there with that. Let's go to the next clip.
When the situation of COVID was under control, the government boasted. How can you argue with success? They attacked the opposition. They said all sorts of things to the speaker. They even went as far, and up to last week, the surrogates were saying that an opposition march that caused us a spike in COVID. How can you expect the people to follow you?
Put up that graphic again. Look at it, folks. There you have it. That's the numbers. The facts. Look at what the government was able to accomplish with the state of emergency and all the protocols and everything else that they had put in place. Regardless of all the wailing and gnashing of teeth and prediction of doom and gloom. For months! For months, no carnival, no Easter, no jazz, no nada. And you tell me it's a coincidence, it's some freak of nature that within the 14-day incubation period after the SLP march is when the numbers start skyrocketing, and you tell me I have to be a rocket scientist to figure out something wrong? Let's go to the next clip.
We have absolutely no proof that the march caused a spike in COVID. But when the spike in COVID comes in January, you blame the people. Mr. Speaker, the state of emergency for 90 days will not help because the government's priorities are still wrong. The government, as we speak, and I came to this honorable house and I said so, the government is spending $20 million on 2.5 miles of road at Rodney Bay. $20 million done without tender. Priorities. As we speak.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second there. Pause that right there. You mean the same 4-lane thing that they wanted to, that they spoke about doing? Government has bad priorities. People know about the horrendous situation there in the morning with traffic. The multiple accidents at that intersection there, right there at Rodney Bay. The people who have died right there. You want to complain about direct award? Didn't the SLP give direct awards? Is something wrong with direct awards? I don't understand what the problem is, folks. Inventing, creating out of nothing at all. Like a magician, foof! A la peanut butter sandwiches, woof! Just create, just trying to make you, just trying to malmene your cerveau. It has been said by the World Bank, all sorts of financial institutions around the world during these COVID times at the people who've lost their jobs, to keep economic activity alive, to get people earning a living. The same thing that they're talking about, put food on the table. Who you think that's working on that roadway right there at Rodney Bay? Goats? They don't go to the supermarket? They don't spend to buy food at the market? Keep rolling that.
Is the benefit of spending $20 million on the road now, in times of COVID, when the people of this country are telling you that their small businesses are in trouble? When the people of this country are telling you that their children, the education of their children is suffering because you not have enough laptops. So what do?
Hold on a second there. Hold on a second there. Come back here. The people are telling you that their children don't have enough laptops. Did they have enough laptops when you all were there? But keep rolling that. I go deal with that. Keep rolling.
Paying for stopping a laptop program, where the government has the report when the laptop program was first introduced. In the government's possession is a report that said that the majority of people that were consulted agreed with the project. But for political mileage, because you want to kill the legacy of the Labour Party, you stop the project. And then you rush now recently with e-books. I mean, Speaker, you know what I mean with e-books? They must pay a license every year for every e-book in the country. They must pay a license for the content. They must pay a license to an Indian firm, to a foreign Indian firm, every year. They must pay a license for the use of the content in the e-book. Every year. And I'm putting to you, Mr. Speaker, if the government had continued with the laptop program in that state of emergency, our students would have been able to learn virtually and would have been able, and their education, because in spite of what we say, the education of the children of this country has suffered. In spite of all the flashing mirrors. And what do? Right now, they're distributing e-books and tablets. But you don't know what they do with the tablets? They give it to the political people in the constituency to distribute it.
Okay, that's
and
it.
They allow...
We're going past. We're going. The UWP is trying to interrupt or to, whatever he said, the legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party. The legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party is VAT. The legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party is putting a plaque on OKEU, spending over $100,000 for finger food, and the hospital remain fap the next day. The legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party is cutting the school feeding program, is increasing license fees. The legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party is charging 66% increase in your water bills. Also, charging a desilting levy to you wherever you live in St. Lucia, even if you live in the south and you did not benefit from the dam. Charge people a desilting levy, and not 1 teaspoon of silt was removed from the dam. In fact, that is happening now under this government. Are these guys gluttons for punishment, or do they believe that the people of St. Lucia have such short memories that they can't remember the Pappy show that was going on? The legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party. You have it for me? Give me that famous interview. It should be lined up. Give me that famous interview, Dr. Kenny Anthony with J.D. Ajop. Are you ready? Okay, it's coming up. I'll keep it real with you,
but
folks.
But something happened.
Yeah.
Something happened that made the situation different. And it is the first time St. Lucia has experienced this. This time around, we could not borrow to to finance the deficit. That is the crux of last year, and this is where the crux of the problem is. We wanted to issue bonds of $266.5 million. But we actually were able to raise only $45.5 million.
That's a significant difference.
In other words, we were not able to raise $221 million. Likewise, we wanted to raise short-term loans of $38.9 million, but we were only able to raise $29.3 million. Again, a shortfall of $9.6 million. So what has happened here is that we cannot turn to borrowing to fix up our deficit because banks, individuals, and institutions who used to lend before are no longer lending governments. They're insisting that they will lend you if you get your financial house in order. And in our case, getting our financial house in order means that we have to bring down that fiscal deficit from where it is at 5.8% below 4%. That's the key.
That's the legacy. They could not borrow. That's the legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party. The legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party is Rochamel. The legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party is Jufali. The legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party is Frenwell. The legacy, one of the biggest legacies of the St. Lucia Labour Party is cost overruns, cost overruns, cost overruns. What are you talking about, ma? Ma, you take lotion here empty, ma? Ma, you making sport? When you talk like that, Pierre, you think St. Lucian's stupid? That's the legacy. You want more legacy? Legacy is Grindberg. That's the legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party. You want more legacy? The legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party is trying to impose. That's where you start talking about impose. Not your fictitious state of emergency to violate people's rights. 361. That's the legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party.
That's crazy.
That's right. Legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party. The Bois d'Orange Bridge. The Orange Wood Bridge.
Wow.
Yeah. The Bois d'Orange Bridge. You want more legacy? You want more legacy? $1 million alone a year to repair all schools on the island. You want legacy again? The NCA, that's the legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party. You want legacy? The roads in the horrendous, just around here, the roller coaster highway that we have, aka also known as the Millennium Highway. You want legacy? You want more? You want more? Record unemployment. That's the legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party. You want more? Do you want more? You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. Don't come with that. Don't come with that. Next. Drop it. From the sublime to the ridiculous. Next clip.
Our position was clear. That we had reservations about the government and the state of emergency and the curfew. But we said, based on the science.
Okay, hold on a second there. Hold up there. You see, people learn by experience. People learn by credibility. You had your reservations based on what was done. Well, what was done? Show them what was done and what the state of emergency and the measures that the government put in place last year, the protocols and everything else. Show them that St. Lucia 1 clip. Yes, this is what it was able to accomplish up to the 4th of October. See that flat line there? Everybody was hunky-dory. Hunky-dory. Roll it, continue. The
emergency and the curfew. But we said, based on the science and the advice of professionals, we are going ahead, Mr. Speaker. But the government abused it They did not change.
How did the government... Pause
Their
that,
modus
pause
of-
that, pause that there, pause that. You see, this is the lack of supportive evidence. How did the government abuse anything? How did the government abuse it? How did the government abuse the state of emergency? How did the government violate anybody's rights? Pie in the sky, fictitious, creating out of thin air, trying to make you believe that what he's saying, you know, is the reality. But there is no evidence of this. And I guarantee you, folks, these guys would have been bawling, "Con, this may we madlen you take a hele!" if there was any violation of people's rights in St. Lucia. Nothing. So they have to invent it. They have to make it up. They have to make noise and make you believe that something went wrong, that the government's violating people's rights. How? You see, that is the insidious wickedness and deception of the St. Lucia Labour Party. That's it right there. And within which Philip J. Pierre was the deputy for ages. And he even wanted to stop a sitting of the House of Parliament so that he could go home or to his office to get the letter that Dr. Kenny Anthony wrote and gave him to certify that he was the deputy man, deputy prime minister. Keep rolling. Truth.
We are going ahead, Mr. Speaker. But the government abused it. They did not change. Their modus of operandi did not change. They did not come to the people. They did not come to the opposition. They did not show any equity. They did not show any good faith, Mr. Speaker. They continued, as we speak, up to yesterday, Mr. Speaker. They in the constituencies distributing tablets, up to yesterday.
They stopped the laptop program.
Wow, that's crazy.
But what Philip J. Pierre is not telling you folks, is that the laptops had nothing on them. The students could study. But what was on the laptops? There were no e-books. And just so that Philip J. Pierre understands, and all of you out there, folks, an e-book is not a device. Okay? Let's just clear this thing up. It's eating at my core. An e-book is not a device. An e-book is short for an electronic book. An electronic book, those of you who have an Amazon account, those of you who have a Kindle or a tablet or a laptop or a computer. I don't have any books here. You can go to the store, a brick and mortar store, purchase a book. But with the internet and with computers, you can purchase an e-book. It's an electronic book that you can read on your laptop, that you can read on your tablet, that you can read on your phone. An e-book is just an electronic format of a book. And there are a number of different formats. There's Mobi, which is mobile, which Amazon uses, or EPUB, electronic publication, or one that everybody is aware of, you've come across it. A PDF file is an e-book. You can have books in PDF format. That's an e-book. What the government has been issuing is tablets. And a tablet can have an e-book on it. But then he goes on to talk about licenses have to be paid every year. But he doesn't tell you, see again the deceptive nature. He doesn't tell you why you have to pay every year. Number one, what does it cover? What does it cover? Updates. Wasn't it a big complaint from everyone every year about last year they had this book, this year say a lot leave encore. So instead of having, Where the books coming from? Where the books coming from? The textbooks that we use at school, they make them in St. Lucia? It's not from, well, whoever the publishers are. Palang me wiki ka sorti, palang glite yo ka sorti, kikote yo ka sorti. So the e-books now, number one, you ain't gonna have to hale a sack eben, have a sack eben, a rucksack eben, go bag, play live. One device like your laptop, or one device like a tablet, can have all your books on there. You could have hundreds of books on there. But the license fee every year, you have to pay to an Indian. So what? If he's an Indian. So what? So what if he's a white man? So what if it's an American? So what if it's a German? Who cares? When you went to buy books, when you went to St. Mary's College, did you care who wrote it? Because when you buy the book, you pay in, if you want to say a license fee, if you want to, work it around like that. What did you want it for? For free. So every year when you buy a book, say, member gaila. But what you get in with the tablet is that you get updates. But Philip J. Pierre is also not telling you folks about the state of the laptops that they gave you. There was one set of the laptops, absolute garbage. Absolute garbage. We ain't going to discuss that. Waste of time. Dead horse. But what he's not telling you is that there was no learning material on the tablets. That the internet access that they tout in and they call in and they making noise about, they didn't provide it. But he'll talk about GINet. GINet was never meant or intended to replace the ASPs in St. Lucia, whether it's Flow or Digicel. And all of a sudden now, he believes that the program they had in place, if the same program just giving people laptops, they would not be able to do anything. It's just laptops only. Where's the programs? Where's the learning? Where's the structured learning? Where's the plans from the teachers? How? He's not telling you about the capabilities of the tablets. That once you get within Wi-Fi coverage at school or wherever else, that you will download, it would automatically download or set up on the tablet the lessons that you need. And that even if you are at home or anywhere where you don't have internet access, you can still do your work. And once you get within Wi-Fi coverage, uploaded. He's not telling you that there was no evaluation period on the efficiency of the laptops. Say, just buy one laptop. Laptop, manger. But Philip JP, I want to ask you a question. St. Lucians eat laptops? Do St. Lucians eat laptops? Why should the government spend millions of dollars now to give students laptops? Is COVID nothing happening now? Oh, you mean for the future? So that they don't get stagnant? Well, your buddy, the one's right behind you, sneaking up on you, says St. Lucians don't eat roads. I never heard such more abject nonsense. Did anybody ever say that people or St. Lucians eat roads? You ever heard that line of talk anywhere else in the world? St. Lucians don't eat roads. But you have to keep your infrastructure going. St. Lucians don't eat roads. So how are you going to get to the smart city? Ukai vole. How are you going to get to the smart city in cul-de-sac, a flood zone? Say, lauvle mete smart city. Meanwhile, the work is starting down there for the bridge in cul-de-sac. Keep going. Thank you. Keep rolling.
This is Philip J. Pierre, the leader of the opposition and leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party. First of all, I want to express my condolences to all those who lost their lives because of this COVID pandemic.
Hold that there. Well, folks, you know we had a big laugh. Everybody in St. Lucia had a big laugh. They want to express condolences to all those who lost their lives in that. From the sublime to the ridiculous. But he's saying that they're not informed, that things are not being done right. But listen to Philip J. Pierre, and then he talks, in that thing, he goes through his whole diatribe. You know, every opportunity, any opportunity to stick it to the government, to politic, they will take it. Talking about his 7-point plan and all of that stuff. Did you ever contact the Prime Minister about a 7-point plan? Did you ever choose to examine what the government had already done to show you that that 7-point plan was already in effect? But of course, it's just throwing things out there for people. Throwing things out there. The measures that you're talking about have been implemented in some form of fashion since last year into now. Talking about tablets, me say tablets la. And I'm not talking about the coconut ones. 5,000 tablets. In fact, last week was the presentation or the handover to the Minister of Education, Dr. the Honorable Gail Rigobert. 5,000 tablets. Previous to that, 3,000. And all the time you're making noise about that, instead of finding out what the government is doing, instead of calling up the Minister of Education, you know, what's the status there? So that you don't embarrass yourself in trying to play gade. You know, you'd listen to Philip J. Pierre and the SLP and believe that they left St. Lucia in a state that endless monies were available, a non-stop money tree that you just shake and money galore fall off and just buy tablets, buy moun l'argent, give people money, freeness. Everything, freeness. But they're not telling you where's the money coming from. $100 million injected immediately into the economy. Koi take a sortie. $120 million to battle COVID and deal with this, that if they get back in office. Where is it coming from? He hasn't said so yet. Nothing. Keep rolling with that day on the timestamps I gave you.
Express my condolences to all those who lost their lives because of this COVID pandemic, and also to express my concern and empathy with those in isolation or those under quarantine.
You heard that? Is that the last one from that sitting? No? Okay, let's go to the next one.
Our party has always been in favor of following the professional and scientific advice as it relates to the handling of the COVID crisis.
Listen to his words.
We've always said that we have to be driven by the science and the professional advice.
Pause right there. We've always said that we have to be driven by the science and the professionals. Would you consider the CMO a professional? Would you consider the persons in the Ministry of Health professionals? Would you consider the World Health Organization professional? Would you consider PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization, professional? Would you consider the Centers for Disease Control professional? Keep rolling.
We have supported the government in the protocols that have been verified by science.
Okay, hold on there. Hold on. We have supported the government protocols that have been verified by science. Are there any protocols that have not been verified? Are there any protocols that are voodoo? that the government has implemented? Are there any Mickey Mouse protocols? Because by saying that you have verified the protocols that have been verified or substantiated by science, how about telling us the protocols or the measures that have been taken that have not been verified? You see how they malmene or sevel? You see how they try to malmene or sevel? Not one iota of evidence. Keep rolling.
We believe that the COVID crisis, the crisis is a pandemic that affects the world and St. Lucia. Hence the reason why last week, I spoke of a 7-point plan where I made some suggestions that the government of St. Lucia can follow.
Hold
and
on
our
right
party stands ready.
So why didn't you go to the Prime Minister with your 7-point plan? Why didn't you write a letter? Why didn't you call the Minister of Health? You speak to the CMO. They had all these meetings of which you're supposed to be a member. You're supposed to be on there. Did you present any of that to NEMAC? Did you? Did you? Why go out to the press and put it out there and say that's what you're offering? You all had the opportunity to participate last year. What you do? You walk out, you left the house. You were on the committee. What happened? Honestly, what was the statement that was made? We're not participating in that anymore. But then you all want to come and cry, boo, Shazne. As if somebody make you all do the foolishness that you all do with yourself. But you know, going back to the smart city, I want you to give me a freeze shot of that screen there of Philip J. Pierre. You want to build a smart city in cul-de-sac. That's what you said on June the 13th last year. Smart city in cul-de-sac. But you can't even get your webcam to work in Zoom. You see, that's the fast that we have to deal with. Milila, I never saw anybody's face with letters before. Maybe it's on his forehead or something. The light didn't work inside it. No Zoom. You want to build a smart city in cul-de-sac, but you can't get your webcam to work. So let's go to the address to the nation on February the 2nd, 2104. There's the first clip there. Let's go to that. 2104. Address to the nation, February the 2nd. Oh, that's okay. Okay. So which one are you on there now? Okay. Okay. So let's are we done with that? Okay, keep rolling on that, the second one.
To discuss with the government these 7 points, which we believe can help to mitigate against the onslaught of slogan in the country. We also feel that this time is a time when the country must be spoken to, and the country must be told the truth to engender trust in what is said.
Okay, hold on there. You say the country must be told the truth, so you are suggesting that the people are being lied to. You see, folks, you must listen and understand the insidious comments. You must tell the people the truth. So what is not the truth? What has the government not? You see, they're not telling you that because it does not exist. It's making those statements so that you, in the back of your mind, somehow will believe that you're not being told the truth. What that truth is, Philip J. Pierre, for some reason, does not tell you. Keep rolling.
By the science and by the professionals who know by experience and by knowledge the best things to do to mitigate against COVID. We also hope that in the vaccinations that will take place. My party fully endorses the use of the vaccinations, but we've heard that there is a plan by the Ministry of Health, but that we sincerely hope that that plan is distributed with equity. If we have to go from the experience of what happened, we are not sure that all St. Lucians, particularly all St. Lucians, will be exposed and have equal opportunity to be vaccinated. We hope that the vaccinations are going to be done on a scientific and professional basis and not based on any other criteria.
You see the dirty tricks? Always trying to inject doubt in people's mind. He has not offered one shred of evidence to support these insinuations, that innuendo. So the government gets a box of masks. You can't let them get any good press out of that. Let's inject some doubt. Let's ask some questions. Well, I hope the people who really need masks will get it. I hope you don't bring it for your people alone. I hope this. When you hear these things, your bell should be going off in your head. We've been hearing this nonsense long enough now. Wake me up, dang damn it. Always injecting some doubt, always inferring, always suggesting some type of Upapias Gade. You predicted elections by the 11th of November last year. There was no elections. Always some made up question to make people wonder. Well, I hope you distribute the vaccines equitably. Do you have any reason not to believe that it will happen? St. Lucia has been having vaccine campaigns for all sorts of diseases before. Was there any problem with those? But why always try to put some type of doubt in people's minds? December 11th, for whatever date he said the elections will be, November 11th, mamamele. You get the idea. So let's go to another part of Fun Fest, the ridiculous. The second part, after lunch yesterday, of the show. You know, folks, it pains me. It was painful. And I could have gone through so many of those statements there yesterday by the opposition. But I'm not a wicked person. And I feel that even if you saw it yesterday or you didn't, that I should spare you the agony. But it was absolutely ridiculous. And the thing is, at the time, sometimes, you know, you may not be quick enough to pick it up, but when you can take it at your leisure and go back and listen, you know, things that just make you go, you know, things that just make you wonder where these harebrained ideas come from. So we go to the second part after lunch yesterday. Well, I won't tell you who it is. Just, folks, I think that's Moses Jean-Baptiste. Roll it for me, please.
That we don't need to use them, and that's a good thing. Mr. Speaker, I have no medical, well, the little medical knowledge that I have is from what doctors tell me. But, Mr. Speaker, can you believe a parliamentarian saying this, Mr. Speaker? Instead of giving the member for Castro South an explanation, he goes on to glorify the fact that the respirators are in boxes on the floor on a shelf somewhere. This means that people don't need them, and that's why they're there. Can you believe this? So, if the people of St. Lucia do not need the respirators, how come people are dying like that?
Oh, pause that there. See? I mean, what kind of reasoning is this? It's a representative of the people. If there are 10 respirators or ventilators, whatever, he has me confused, in boxes, and the minister, this Dominic Fede, is saying they are not needed, then why are people dying? I mean, something's not right upstairs. I mean, I hope he sits back and listens to this thing again, how ridiculous it seems. Folks, keep playing.
Need them, that's why they're there. Can you believe this? So, if the people of St. Lucia do not need the respirators, how come people are dying like that?
Oh,
how come?
Yeah,
does it mean, Mr. Speaker, that, does it mean, Mr. Speaker, you heard them grumbling at the back there, Mr. Speaker? They will grumble because they don't know what time it is. They don't know what time it is. Mr. Speaker, all of a sudden they have all become experts on the use of respirators. You are saying to the world, Mr. Speaker, the member for Aslawe Canary said to the world that the reason we have respirators in boxes is because we do not need them. That's the fact. That is what he said. Because we don't need them. So, Mr. Speaker, someone is saying to me that he said ventilators. But whatever, is it ventilators or respirators?
Folks, I mean, there are 24 respirators.
Wow, that's crazy.
It simply means that we have not had 24 critical cases requiring ventilators, respirators, whatever you want to call them, at the same time. That's all it means. That you have a number available in the event that you need them, but you don't put everything out and you don't need them. I mean, I don't know. That's the end of it? Of that clip? Yeah. Let's go to the last clip. The Honorable Dominic Fede on vaccines. The last clip.
Mr. Speaker, it must also be noted that we are making tremendous headway.
Pause that there for a second.
Bringing the vaccine to St. Louis.
Remember that was it Philip J. Pierre who was asking about the application of the rollout of the vaccines, that it would be equitable and blah, blah, blah. So continue with that. It's a response.
Consultation has started, Mr. Speaker, as we anticipate the arrival of the vaccines, some 74,000 doses, Mr. Speaker, by the end of February. Mr. Speaker, the government of India, through an alliance, we also anticipate at a time to be announced later, some 185,000 doses of vaccine. And Mr. Speaker, through the CARICOM alliance, we're expecting another 35,000 doses of vaccine. Altogether, Mr. Speaker, we will be in a position to vaccinate the entire of St. Lucia. All I can tell you is that the first phase, Mr. Speaker, the first 20% of the population, the timeline for the rollout is sometime in the middle of March. And so, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Health is very busy going around to make sure that we consult with all of our key stakeholders to make sure that we have a comprehensive plan to make sure that the rollout goes as smoothly as possible. Mr. Speaker, the elderly, people with underlying conditions, and other vulnerable groups, Mr. Speaker, will be the first target for the vaccine. I'm very happy to announce as well that the Cabinet of Ministers, Mr. Speaker, have made it the policy that vaccination in St. Lucia will be free to all citizens that require it. And so, Mr. Speaker, this is...
The information he's asking for, in fact, and I can tell you, since last week, the Ministry of Health had at least a few interviews that were broadcast on TV about how the vaccine program would evolve. But they don't pay any attention to that. They don't ask any questions because they don't want to know. They just want to push the nonsense to malmene or sevel. And somebody sent me a message here. The Casaba Beach event. Remember that, folks? Casaba Beach by Marjorie was another super spreader event. Go back and check the videos. See how many masks you see there. Go back and check. Right? The person says, hey, he cannot support anything, just like giving people money to stay home. But where is the money coming from? We don't know. No economic activity. Everything shut down. But you want the government somehow to find money somewhere to give people. That's the thinking. My daughter got one of those laptops and it was useless then and it's still useless now. No software installed. So the recurring fee that Philip JP was talking about, the license that you have to pay Indian every year. Why mention even Indian? Why mention Indian? What are you trying to accomplish by saying that they have to pay a license every year? So what was the significance of juking Indian in there? You see, you have to ask yourself these questions, you know. Yeah, ask yourself these questions. Well, the books that people would have been buying every year, the license fee every year for the use of the e-books on there is still cheaper than having to purchase all those books every year. Go and fight by Valmont. Remember that? Or they tell you they ain't get a shipment yet and all of those things. Or the stock was low and your child starting school 1 month, 2 months without the textbooks. You have no textbooks to order, no shipment to miss, nothing at the store. Download, boom! We take a quick break. We went quite long there tonight. You know, I just wanted to get this out there. And we'll take a few calls. And of course, we have some photos. We'll go through them and video in the next segment. Quick break. We'll be right back.
Keeping it real. Keeping it real. But keeping it real every day, every day. Every day, every day. Every day, every day. Every day, every day.
To experience the benefits of a tropical solar water heating system, call 453-1868 in Castries or 454-6344 in Vieux Fort.
Yes, catch the first news from 7:15, only on channel 117. St. Lucia, Hot 7 TV was the first to bring you a full HD newscast. Now, here's another first. The Hot 7 Nightly News is now your first newscast for the evening in St. Lucia. You heard right. The Hot 7 Nightly News is now at 7:15. Yes, tune in at 6:45 p.m. and be the first to catch the latest happenings in your world. On the run, watch us on your cell phone or tablet via the Caribbean Hot FM app. Trusted objective journalism from our diligent news team. Get it fresh, Get it hot. The Hot 7 Nightly News. Now at 6:45. Watch us on Channel 117 on Flow, Channel 7 Plug and Play, or follow us on Facebook Live on Caribbean Hot 7 TV.
Keeping it real, but keeping it real every day, 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 every day.
I see y'all. I see y'all. See y'all sneaking up on me. You know, I've come to the conclusion that the opposition simply uses the House as an opportunity to spew their propaganda, their nonsensical rhetoric, and to try and extend any sitting of the House into prime time, 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the night, so that they could get a captive audience and push their propaganda and their bluffs and fluff. And don't use my comment in the House. Fluff and bluff is from Keeping It Real. Okay? Don't use it. I want to share with you some photos because people have been very concerned and asking questions about the status of St. Jude's. And last week Friday, Prime Minister Alan Shastney called into a radio show from the construction site of St. Jude's Hospital and said that the cladding, the panels were going up. And of course, that just put the SLP's underway in a twist. I'm telling you folks, things were too tight. It was squeezing something because they were going berserk. They were throwing out everything to throw shade. Then they started talking about the Grenfell Towers in London and that it was the same panels and they were going to catch fire. Stop the nonsense. It's not true. Stop inventing stuff. Stop making up things. Number one, it's a 2-story building in Viewfort. The towers in London where so many people died were 20, 30, 40 floors. Number two, the council over there chose not to purchase, in order to save money, not to purchase fireproof panels. Instead, they purchased something cheaper, and that was the source of the problems over there. You know, that was the source. But again, they just continue. They see the House as an opportunity to come and get an audience and spew it. Social media, everywhere, because people want to know what's happening in St. Lucia. So they will use the House as their platform to push their nonsense. So let's go with the photos of the cladding and be able to get that. There we go, folks. Right there now, right next to the building where they're going to put up the cladding, because they were manufactured in a warehouse down by the brewery somewhere down there. And now they're on site. 800 panels will form the outer walls or the outer shell. Better for insulation, better for mold and all of that. There it is, folks. Next one. Let's not take too much time. There they are, folks. Each one takes about 20 minutes to put in place. Keep going. And there, that's the inside of the panels. So the panel is on the outside and that's the inside structure of it. Next go. Next. There we go, folks. And there you're going to have some glass there and they're going to be letting the light in just so that you can see. Look at how many panels are put in there already. And that was Saturday morning, folks. And all the whole there, bossy, they're already commencing the framing on the inside. So you see these aluminum frames are what you're going to have the walls, the sheetrock or whatever they're going to use to create the rooms and the hallways and everything else, the office space and everything in the hospital. They're already working on that on the inside. Next, keep going. Just give them the view. See that, folks? Whilst the panels are going up, they're starting the work on the inside. Okay? There you go, folks. To Avaika Ali. Don't let them fool. Nothing is happening at St. Jude's. Liars. Nothing is happening. Look at that, folks. Gaza. Yo kay tou fe asuti kou le jaune sa bala. A little yellow they see, they go in jaundiced. See that, folks? There's how it's attached to the pillars and the cross members. Yes, monsieur engineer. Let's keep going with the photos. Keep going. I want you to see every angle, folks. See how things are anchored. See how things are there. And that is to show you, folks, whilst work is going on that side, on the east side, towards the center and towards the west, all the piping and everything that was finally put in is going to be concreted in, because all of that is going to be under the concrete. That's in the bottom floor. And they're going to be doing the paneling in phases. So by the time they're done under there, the paneling would have come around to the other side. That's the ground floor. Keep going. This is the top floor. Next one. Keep rolling. There you go, folks. Rooms and office space and hospital wards. Tout bagasa. Buy kafet. Don't let them malmene your cervelle. Okay? Keep going. Keep going. Keep going, folks. There you go. And that was Saturday. And you know the guys pushing work down there. Kombanja. That's right, like Doshin. There you go, folks. Things are beginning to take shape. There you go. So you can see for yourself. No Mickey Mouse stuff. I bet you they tell you something about the color of the aluminum framing there. It's the wrong shade. Or look, it has an extra hole there. They'll find something to say, don't worry. Those are the panels there. You sure the panel is the right color? Somewhere in Mumbai, India, they had snakes because it was black. They'll find something to say. They'll find something to say, don't worry. There you go, folks. Let you see everything, you know. I take you with me. I take you with me. I have to see it. Okay, let's take a few calls. You get the idea, folks. Let's take a few calls so we can get out of here tonight. I see your guys there getting a little listless. You might stay until 12. Is 12 okay? No, 5 past 12? Okay. 450-0777. Give me some calls there, folks. I know you want to call. Know you want to call. Using the house as your platform. Nothing meaningful. Same old talk from last year. Same old talk. Unsubstantiated then. Unsubstantiated now. Nothing to justify the same old Mickey Mouse stuff that y'all had. And I just got a message that they're also working on the parking lot. Tavaika Fet. Don't let them fool you. You think you're going to win elections by lies and propaganda when people can see so much that's being done? Good night. You're on the air. Let's keep it real.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Great. Talk to me.
I'm enjoying your show, but a little suggestion, please, for the Prime Minister, because I know he's listening. The utility companies, especially the internet companies, if you could arrange something for the people that are out of work and they cannot afford to pay bills, so that they could get the internet for the children.
Well, I can tell you those discussions have been taking place, and any agreements or arrangements that's going to come out of that will be passed on to the public, okay?
Okay, sir. And another thing, as the country is in a state of emergency and corona, there's a lot of St. Lucians out of work. All these foreigners that are working in the country, the government should not allow them to work in the country. Give the job to the St. Lucians that need it. Because
I'm sure they're hearing you, and if there's any cases of anything untoward as far as that's concerned, I'm sure they will deal with it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, caller. Thank you for keeping it real. That's the kind of call we like around here. You know, decent people call, even if you have an issue or something, you can talk about it, you know, in a civilized manner. Just keep it real. You know, 450-0777. Give me a call. Let's talk about what's been going on in St. Lucia, the new state of emergency, the vaccines that are coming. Folks, I predict by the end of this year, things are going to be changing dramatically, and St. Lucia is going to be bouncing back, like Luco said. 450-0777. We have a call there? Pass it over. What's going on with the phones there now? Too many calls? I don't think so. If we have nobody there, we might as well go for the night. Are you trying to sabotage the lines? You don't want to, you I think the guys want to go home, folks. But anyway, like I was saying, you have to sit back and listen to what's being said to you. You have to look at the record, what this government has been doing, what it has been able to accomplish. Good night, you're on the air. Let's keep it real.
Hi, good night, Norbert.
Yes, good night.
Right. With regards, I always enjoy your show.
Thank you so much.
And I'm part of the younger generation.
Okay, great.
And let me just start my comment by saying, when I was growing up, this is not what politics look like. And the opposition is making it very ugly and disgusting with their antics, their fluffing and bluffing, or whatever you want to call it. With regards to the earlier part of your show and with what Priest said, she was actually right. She's right.
Absolutely.
She's definitely right. It's disgusting. The comments are. It's you cannot watch the broadcast from social media and not be disgusted and distracted. So I assume it's an antic to get people away from what the Prime Minister is trying to say, or any of his members, as a matter of fact, because it's not only for him they make the weird comments and make all the memes and whatnot. But I know in my line of work as a leader, whatever I do represents my job and the quality of my job and the person I want to portray. And I feel like the opposition should come out and speak against these things happening, because these people are using them as toys, or if you want to call it, for their political games. That's
right.
and
That's
games
the
and whatnot.
Endorsement of those things, because
Exactly.
they don't say anything against it.
And while they may not literally tell them to go do these things, I mean, I know they're aware of these things happening. So come out and speak on it and tell the people, stop, and this is not, you don't condone this and not.
That's
These
right,
are the
Paula.
characteristics of a true leader. How do you expect to be the next prime minister and this is how you're behaving? You should be able to say when I'm wrong and it's wrong and when I'm right and it's right. And it reflects a lot about his character.
Absolutely.
It's just not, I don't know, but I always enjoy your show.
Thank you very much,
Keep on
Paula.
keeping it real.
Thank you. Thanks for keeping it real. Have
No
a good
problem.
night. We have one more? Okay. Well, folks, I know it's a little late and you want to get to bed. I want to thank you once again for joining me right here, keeping it real with you. Tonight's episode, Check the Play. All of you out there in the diaspora, all around St. Lucia and all around the world who tune in, whatever the time, I want to thank you so much for joining me once again on another episode, Keeping It Real. Thank you so much. Well, I was going to say happy something. Hope you have a good night. Next, Keeping It Real, next week, Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. right here on Hot 7 TV. I'm Norbert Williams. Good night.
Keeping it real, but keeping it real every day, 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 every day.
The opinions expressed on this TV program by the hosts, guests, and callers are solely their opinions and responsibility. They do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Hot 7 TV or its affiliates.
Hot 7 TV is the rising star of television in St. Lucia with our stunning 100% HD quality, fresh exciting programming, including a balanced professional newscast.